Welcome back to Wrestling Conspiracy Theories. I'm Tom from Top 10 Wrestling, and it's been a while, but we are back with another episode. Today, we'll be looking at whether the biggest incident in pro wrestling history was a work. That's right, we're talking about the Montreal Screwjob. So here is how the theory actually goes. First of all, let's get a refresher on what the Montreal Screwjob actually is. The Montreal Screwjob saw Bret Hart take on Shawn Michaels in a match for the WWF Championship at SummerSlam 1997. Bret Hart was the current champion but was leaving to WCW. Bret Hart refused to drop the title at SummerSlam event and said that he would drop the title on Raw the next night instead. Vince was scared that Bret would no-show Raw and would show up in WCW instead with the belt. During the match, Shawn Michaels locked in the sharpshooter on Bret Hart, Bret Hart's own finisher. Vince McMahon ran out and called for the bell, even though Bret Hart never tapped, and Shawn was proclaimed the new WWF champion. After the match, Bret went backstage and punched Vince McMahon in the face. This was all real and Bret was pissed. This incident would cause Bret Hart to have a terrible relationship with the company for the next 13 years. And obviously, the theory goes that this was all a work, that it was fake. Here is the evidence that supports this theory. Legally, Vince McMahon could not have screwed Bret Hart due to the creative control in Bret's contract. Creative control is a clause in your contract that allows you to change the booking of your match if you are unhappy with it. So Vince McMahon would have legally been in breach of contract by telling Bret that he would win when really he was losing. The incident which saw Bret Hart punch Vince was never filmed, and many accounts state that Vince's black eye looked fake and looked like makeup. Vince and Bret were also known to be very old school kayfabe. One of the oldest wrestling protocols is that you leave on your back, i.e. you lose your last match. So Bret Hart losing his last match wouldn't have been a surprise at all. There are lots of conflicting reports and accounts over the Screwjob. Vince Russo in his book claims that he came up with the finish and pitched the idea to Vince McMahon, but Shawn Michaels states in his own book that Triple H came up with the finish. But then Bret Hart claims Jerry Briscoe came up with the whole thing. Shawn Michaels also stated that he told Earl Hebner, the referee, what was happening. Yet Earl Hebner himself claims that Jerry Briscoe told him what was happening. And the final piece of evidence is the Wrestling with Shadows documentary. Wrestling with Shadows was a documentary on Bret Hart which highlighted the last year of his career in the WWF. Director Paul J managed to film the entirety of the build-up to the Montreal Screwjob. Scenes that were filmed included the conversation in which Vince McMahon promises the match will end by a run-in. He also filmed an incident backstage after the match in which Shawn Michaels swears he was not involved. It is a huge coincidence that a film crew just happened to be present and making a documentary while all this was going down, don't you think? But yeah, that is how the theory goes. Comment below whether you think the Montreal Screwjob is a work or not, whether this has convinced you otherwise. And yeah, my name's been Top 10 Wrestling. Let's hit 500 likes. I'm sorry that there hasn't been one for a while. I'm going to try get one out like the same time next month, so mid-August, I don't know. Comment below which theory you want me to look at. And yeah, goodbye and keep on rolling.